Thank you, everyone, for tuning in once again to our series in conversations with the chairman of leading industries in Labuan in conjunction with the launch of our industry report 2019. Today, in the final segment, we have Encik Khairuddin, who is the chairman of the Labuan Banking Association and is also head of Maybank International Labuan. Thank you for spending your time with us, Kai. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome, Farah. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad we are having this session so we can share with the community, the Labuan IBFC community. Thank you again, Farah.
No, not at all. The highlights for 2019 really has been the fact that the banking industry together with the insurance industry has done so well. And, as you know, the banking industry is one of the pillars in Labuan, one of the first few industries in Labuan. What are your thoughts on the report and the performance of your cohorts this year, last year, 2019, and how do you see it moving forward?
Okay, let me start with the new tax regime. Remember, the government had introduced the new tax regime abruptly in 2019, early 2019. So when we saw that we had projected the runaway numbers, especially loan, will go up to 70% because 70% of our borrower in Labuan are actually from Malaysia. But surprisingly, only about 21.6% were withdrawn. But one factor, maybe the loan is not expiring yet, so they don't bother to go and refinance or to go and look for another bank or another place to refinance. Or maybe they are okay with the changes in the tax regime. Although I would think also because the banks are getting more innovative and creative, rather than selling loans based on tax advantage, probably we would have sold it or pitch it based on other services or other competitive advantage other than tax.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the pioneer industries in Labuan, like for example, banking or insurance, a lot of it started out as Malaysian business, which has evolved. A lot of the banks that are coming in now are no longer Malaysian banks. A lot of the loans are, the profile of the loans have also changed. I think it really fulfills the intermediation role of Labuan vis-a-vis Asia per se. On the back of this, how do you see the banking industry moving forward, 2020 and beyond, towards the development of Labuan as an island, the jurisdiction, and Malaysia?
Here, Farah, let me share with you some statistic. Okay, from after this post-COVID or during COVID, close to 90% of people, they refuse to go to bank at all. We're talking about normal bank. Close to 90%, and close to 50%, they do not want to go to the bank and apply any facilities. So there is indicator for change for all the banks to be innovative. I mean, we cannot just wait for clients to come to the bank, or we just promote outside and hopefully they can walk into the bank and ask for products. So what I mean by innovative, before we were planning to go digital, we were embarking into digital space. Now instead of it's nice to have, it become a necessary thing for us to have. It's not about competitive advantage anymore. It's about being relevant in the market. So you just imagine losing that 90% of the bankable people just because of they don't want to go to the bank or they want to deal with you face to face. Just imagine 90% of bankable, our cake will only left with 10%. So we have to be very innovative, and then we have to take on all the digital space to get back the 90% of the bankable people.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that because Labuan IBFC has been around 30 years, the Association of Banks 25 years. Obviously, there's been an evolution in the business, as you say, and the latest reaction to COVID is probably the latest evolution. What is the Banking Association doing towards fulfilling the potential of banking in Labuan? What are your thoughts in this space?
Okay. Before COVID, before the new age of banking, the existence of ALB, it was just to facilitate all the members to communicate with the relevant party. LFSC, it can be MOF, can be all the relevant IRB and all. I would say before 2019, before the tax regime, it was merely BAU, and we were talking about mostly administrative matters. But after 2019, we saw all the banks came together. I would say to battle for to change the new tax regime. But after some times, our focus had changed. Instead of going against the new tax regime, we have started to do or to innovate the way we do business by not harping on the changes of tax, but we customize and ride on the wave of the change of tax. That has shown in the running number. Instead of 70%, we managed to maintain it at as low as 20%.
Yes, yes, no, absolutely. And it's not unique to Labuan, I feel. It's global. The tax changes are global, and everyone's had to repivot, re-understand how to do business and the lines of business that are available. I think the clients are also well aware about the changes. So it's really a situation where it's a complete sea change. And because of that, we've been very pleasantly surprised at how the industry, the banking industry obviously included, has really stepped up and provided such great support to the jurisdiction. How do you feel about the changes in the Labuan offering over the years? Obviously, now there's a big push in digital solutions, digital licenses, and as the jurisdiction grows, the rock of Labuan really is in the banking industry, because everybody needs a bank account, right? And everybody understands the challenges in setting up a bank account nowadays, right? Are your members ready to move together with the jurisdiction as it evolves? And what are your thoughts on in this area?
You see, Farah, all this while, actually, we never have problem meeting all the needs of the need. But currently, because people are moving to digital currency, Bitcoin and all, but most of the bank, I would say 95% of the bank are still not ready to onboard client with all the digital currency, because of there's no underlying asset to support the digital currency. But we are working closely with our head office and our local relevant authority. For example, Maybank working with Bank Negara to allow that, because back in our origin country, for example, we are in KL, Bank Negara still not allowing banks to deal with all the fiat money for all the Bitcoins. But we do not want the regulation or the requirement to be one size fit all, where for Labuan also we can't do it. So that is the biggest challenge for all the 36 banks in Labuan now. So we've been having problem where LFSA approve the license, but when they come to us, they cannot open the account. It's not that we don't believe in the business, but our head office don't allow us to open such account. But we are trying to talk to our head office, try to make them understand. We can onboard, but we pick and choose. If the client KYC and all the customer due diligence are all been taken care of, been assessed correctly, I think we should be able to fulfill the requirement or their needs to open any accounts. But one thing to add also, Farah, other than Bitcoins, now very popular now is actually the investment bank. There are two things about investment bank. When they open account, it can be account for them to run their operation daily or to run their business.
Correct.
Most bank in Labuan, we will only take for their operational account. For them to run the business, we still not allowed to open the account for that. Reason being, we do not want to be their correspondent bank when we don't have any RMA with them. Because some boutique investment bank, for them to create RMA with a big bank, certain bank like CIMB, Maybank, is a very onerous, long process. So that's why. That is our challenge now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just for the benefit of the viewers, there are two types of banks in Labuan actually. One is the commercial bank, which Encik Kai runs the association, and then there is the investment bank association. Investment banks don't have corresponding banking network and no deposit taking, but obviously commercial banks do. So this is what your reference with regards to investment banks is about, right, Kai?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one question, because it would be amiss for us to not discuss the impact on COVID to the jurisdiction and to the banking fraternity. What has been your experience thus far with regards to the effect of COVID vis-a-vis the business and the industry on the island itself?
Okay, there are two scenarios here. One is the local bank in Labuan, which serve all the people of Labuan. I mean,
That's
the
the
retail
domestic.
branch.
Yeah.
Yes, they are affected. People cannot walk in, and then the SOP is very tight, and then which the 90% I was talking about. But here another set of bank is the Labuan banks. Farah, we all this while we've been using e-platform to connect, to do business. So for example, the arrangement of documentation and all. Before this, because our client can be in Vietnam, can be in Cambodia, can be in Philippines.
Yeah.
So the documents were scanned and sent to us even before COVID. Even now, other retail branches that serve retail people, a mass market, have started to do that. But for Labuan, we have been doing it all this while for 25 years. But the impact on our ALB or all the banks in Labuan is, although LFSA did not say that moratorium should be given to all the clients, but they took the opportunity to apply for that. So what I'm saying is that our books will be impacted by all this application. Of course, we will consider giving the moratorium for the affected industry. And the most important point here is the way we look at credit in the future. Before, we never look at pandemic risk at all. But now, if you have if you are exposed to pandemic risk, your pricing will be higher. Or maybe we don't do at all. So the pricing and the way we look at risk will be changed in the future just because we experienced during the COVID.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a risk profile of the client, but operationally, nothing has changed within the banking sector in Labuan. But obviously, as far as business is concerned, there will be an impact, and the banking system in Labuan is very sound. So we can, we all wait to see really how bad it is. I wanted to just end this conversation with you about your aspirations for the jurisdiction. What would you like to see Labuan IBFC evolve in the next 30 years? Because as you know, it's our 30th anniversary this year. And we want to kind of a bit future forecast where you would like to see the industry in the next 30 years maybe.
Farah, you see, we've been running this place for 30 years, but all the banks are run by all non-local people, either from KL or from their origin country, from Hong Kong, from Europe. So there's not a single bank run by local Labuan people. So ALB noticed that, we acknowledge that, and we start focusing in developing local people. Even for the UMS student, we have started to onboard them as intern or trainees, and then from there, if they perform well, we'll pick them up to be a permanent staff. And I think for a few times I had given some talk on banking at the UMS student just to attract the local people to come and work with the banking industry. So instead of hiring people from outside, we can start to hire people from Labuan itself. So I think I heard what DG Datuk Daniel said about setting up an academy. I think that is a very good idea. I mean, we all the industry can get together and then depart our knowledge by having this academy, Farah.
No, absolutely. And just for the viewers' understanding, UMS, one that Chen Kai is referencing is University Malaysia Sabah, and they have in Labuan Island itself a faculty dealing with offshore finance. And I think talent pipeline is a huge thing, but obviously ALB is taking it a bit further by ensuring that it is a Labuanite that is brought forth to run an organization or the banking sector, and talent is the most important thing. We are, after all, a services industry, and talent is the core of it. So on that note, I'd like to thank you very much, Sheikh Khai, for this opportunity to speak to you, and I hope to see you soon at one of our meetings in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Farah. Thank you. You have a good day.